Muss raus. Wie komme ich raus jetzt?
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. It was very interactive doing these things online and not face-to-face, which is always my preference. I'd like to just thank you in opening for taking the time to join us today. It's with great pleasure that I get to kick off our first Hystax webinar. Originally, those of you that know us, we'd intended to launch Hystax more officially earlier this year in March, just before COVID hit. And the event was supposed to be hosted here in South Africa, and Hystax was going to fly out and do a technical workshop and launch with our clients. But unfortunately, time and fate had different intentions for us, so that hasn't happened. So we're kicking off with our first webinar, and we will do follow-ups so we can get more intimate around the Hystax offering and how Syrex will deliver that with its partners. As part of my introduction, I'd like to position our relationship with Hystax and how it fits into our global cloud strategy. Those of you that have worked with Syrex in the past will know that we've sort of always strived to deliver not only the best in technology at the best possible price, but also to provide our clients with the best options when available. It's always very complex with technology shifting over time, and we've always tried to adapt and be a little bit multi-hatted, multi-skilled so that we can provide our clients with options and not just be sort of a one-trick pony. So we've done that with Hystax as we believe they fit into that strategy. Globally, businesses have been forced to adapt to a more modern workspace, relying more and more on cloud technology. As recent events have proven, we will all ultimately consume our services and collaborate as businesses in a very different and more online way. The reliance on the systems and networks of old have already adapted themselves, and today we see a new world where all interaction can fundamentally be provided to anyone, anywhere, in a fast and secure and ultimately more productive way. Syrex has partnered with Hystax to deliver what we believe to be the most agnostic and technically holistic solution on the market globally. We are now able to migrate platforms into private and public data centers with full orchestration, high availability, disaster recovery, and the ability to automate the platform recovery as and when required. I know it's a lot to consume. I'm hoping as we go through this webinar that you'll get a greater understanding. I've tried to present to a lot of you already and try to show you the beauty of Hystax, but it is quite technical, so we will have an opportunity to engage and just make sure we overcome any questions you might have. Together with our checkpoint security offerings, we can now ensure total security for our clients' intellectual property wherever it might be hosted. We have also partnered with CSA Africa, who are on today with us as well, with some of their partners, to provide the Hystax licensing here in South Africa as well as SADC. So you don't necessarily, if you're not a managed partner of Syrex, deal with us. You can also deal with the CSA team, who are very capable and able to provide you those services and licensing should you wish to build your own node or utilize this within your business. I would appreciate it if you would please raise any of your questions. You'll see there's like a chat bot there. So as we go through this, and Edwin and Anatoly go through the webinar today, just drop your questions there. We might not respond immediately, but we will at the Q&A session at the end try to address the most pertinent questions and try and answer some of those burning ideas, thoughts that you might have. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Edwin Kuss, who's the Global Sales Director at Hystax, to get the proverbial show on the road.
Okie dokie, here we go. Hello, everybody. My name, as Ralph correctly stated, is Edwin. I'm the Director of Sales of Hystax. We are a US company. I will introduce the company and our services, what we do and how we do it on a high level, more or less commercial approach. And then afterwards, Anatoly, our chief engineer, will give you a demonstration, which is a little bit more technical, obviously. Before I start, just to give you an idea what it's about, we have a nice video which I will share, and this gives you a first feeling.
Many times we take precautions to protect our data by backing it up or sending it off-site. But imagine, what would happen if a disaster makes your entire system inoperable? Even if your data can be retrieved from another location, how long would it take to rebuild your entire IT infrastructure? Days, weeks, months, or years? Imagine how much even an hour of downtime could cost your customer. Or you want to move to a cloud but don't know how to do that and how to roll back if something goes wrong. That's why disaster recovery and cloud migration software is crucial. Why choose Hystax Acura? Support both public and private clouds, any-to-any scenarios. Fully automated cloud migration and disaster recovery, easy to use. Consistent replication of all workloads. Orchestrated launch of business applications on a target site. Smooth integration with partner ecosystem and sophisticated failback. Unlimited number of test migrations and failover. Hystax is a company of IT resilience and cloud migration experts with more than 15 years in backup and cloud migration industry in the United States and Europe. If you are an MSP, cloud service provider, or end customer, it is a product for you. So what are you waiting for? Contact us today and get 3 days setup service.
So you obviously don't have to contact us today because we are already here. Now you know what it's all about. The webinar is over, I could say, but no. Let's have a look a little bit more into detail. But before I talk about the details, let me again frame it a little bit. Why should it be interesting for Syrex and its partners and customers to be in this disaster recovery as a service, live cloud migration business at all? Because it's disaster recovery, failover to clouds. It's cloud migration. And the cloud, although it's absolutely nothing new in the internet, it's still booming. We have 25 to 30% per year growth still in the cloud business. And as you all know, the future is already there. It's just not evenly distributed all the time. And the same with clouds. So while here in Germany, where I'm located, companies all have hybrid cloud approaches, and they think what more workloads they can move to the cloud, and maybe they should have a second cloud, multi-cloud. This is not a question at all in US. In the US market, no one is wondering if it makes sense to be multi-cloud because they all have multiple clouds. The only question is if 3 are enough or better 4 or 5. And then we have regions where there are no clouds at all. Here in Frankfurt, Amazon arrived in with their own data center in 2014, 6 years ago. If I'm not mistaken, in your beautiful country, South Africa, this just happened last year. So you see that there is still a huge difference. And whether you are first thinking of going to the cloud the first time, begin using clouds, which means you have to migrate there, or if you use multiple clouds, which means you have to migrate between the clouds, or if you're maybe disappointed and you want to go back on-prem. We had such a project some months ago as well, where someone went back from AWS to on-prem. This all means migration. So there's always a demand for our software, no matter which stage of the cloud adoption we talk about. And disaster recovery, IT resilience, this is obviously also not just a nice to have, but a must. Like firewalls, anti-DDoS, antivirus, and all these other security things, it just makes sense to have a disaster recovery solution in place. And even if you are successfully managing your cloud and you are protected, you also don't want to lose the oversight of the cost. So cloud cost control is the other big thing, which you can also get from Hystax. So what we do actually is we help customers to move into the cloud and then stay there and use it in a very effective way. And how we do this will be the part of my next presentation, which is not a video, which are some slides, which I'm going to upload. And maybe start from the beginning. Yes, here we are. Minimize, no. So Hystax live cloud migration. This is obviously the first slide, not? Oh, what a pity. They didn't start at the beginning. Here we are. Live cloud migration and cross-cloud disaster recovery. Very important, we talk about cross-clouds. From on-prem to the cloud and also between the clouds. As I said, Hystax makes clouds affordable and reliable. So we help you to move into the cloud, between the clouds, and use it in an effective, affordable, and reliable way. Here's where we are today. Hystax is a company located in beautiful Silicon Valley in California, USA. Founded 4 years ago. Our founders are serial entrepreneurs. It's their third company. And the company before, surprise, surprise, was disaster recovery as a service. So altogether, they have more than 10 years experience in disaster recovery as a service. And then founded Hystax, which is a software which enables partners like Syrex and their partners to offer disaster recovery as a service using this software. So we are now a pure ISV, independent software vendor, and the software, which is called Hystax Acura, has two main functionalities or use cases. One is disaster recovery, and the other one is live cloud migration. We have done, as you can see, more than 80,000 migrations, and not in the last 4 years. Actually, this is not the perfect slide, in the last 12 months only. And some of our customers, we all know Airbus, Orange, Nokia, Burger King are part of the customers, which we not always know because we work with partners. Our approach is 100% via channel partners like Syrex in South Africa, and we don't always see which customers they are migrating or reselling our licenses to. Only by coincidence, sometimes you have some direct customer relations. The products are two, actually. So Hystax Acura, obviously you understood that Hystax is the name of the company, and then the name of the product is either Acura or Optscale. Acura is the software we're going to talk about and where we do the demo, which is a software for two main use cases, live cloud migration and disaster recovery. It's a very similar flow. This is why the software is the same for both use cases. There are some people who say that a live cloud migration actually is nothing else than just a one-time disaster recovery. And this is not completely wrong. It's all the same with agents replicating data to another site. So this is why Hystax Acura serves both use cases, live cloud migration and disaster recovery. Then we have Hystax Optscale, which is not the topic of today, but I just want to put the seed in your brain that we also have a cloud management platform, because this one can really be interesting for your customers as well. We are any-to-any, we serve all clouds, but Optscale, we start with AWS and Azure, and those two clouds actually are in the main focus in Syrex and South Africa region, as I know, AWS and Azure, so perfect fit. What is it about? Hystax Optscale, CMP, Cloud Management Platform. There are a lot of CMPs, and they have the only purpose to optimize your costs. So they give you nice advice where you can save some money if you move, for example, your workloads from AWS to Alibaba. Nice. But if you want to follow this suggestion, you still need to call Hystax or someone else to execute the workload shifting, the workload mobility, to migrate these VMs. In our case, of course, since we are the big experts in migration, and we are, our platform includes the migration feature. So if we come with a nice suggestion, you can save 20K per month if you move from AWS to Azure, then you can immediately execute the migration yourself out of the same portal. That's unique. And also, it's not just about optimizing, it's mainly about controlling the costs. And believe me, the longer your customers use clouds, the higher the cost. Cloud costs are always increasing because it's just too simple, it's just too convenient, it's very easy to make some clicks and have some more resources. And the longer a company uses the cloud, the bigger the invoices, and it's just a matter of time until they lose the oversight. And we not just optimize the cloud costs, we also give you budget control, full budget control. So here, the features, very simplified. It's just a high-level demonstration, don't worry. Cloud cost management and transparency, because those invoices you will get from AWS and Azure, they are not really transparent. Custom budgets. You know exactly how much each Jenkins job or CI/CD job has cost you. You can give budgets to each user, to each department, to whatever, for testing purposes and so forth, have thresholds, have forecasts, full control. Cost projections on other clouds, that's cool. With our analytics, we can tell you, you can go to your current, or your end customer, let's say, can go to his current cloud provider, let's say AWS, and say, hey, look, I would save so much money if I use the same resources on Azure. So what can you do for me? So you can talk to your current provider and negotiate with the information we provide you. And I said, if they're not open to negotiate, just migrate to Azure. So this Hystax Upscale live cloud management platform, cloud cost control platform is really something nice, and it's unique because of the integrated IT resilience and workload mobility migration feature, plus a totally different, unique billing method. Because all the other cloud optimization tools, they charge a percentage like 1.5% of the annual cloud spend. So how motivated can they be to reduce it, really, by the way? But we charge, and then they say, give me 1.5% of your annual cloud spend from Azure or AWS, and then we see what we can do. But we charge a fixed amount of around $40 per budget created. It can be 5 budgets, one for marketing, finance, accounting, or 500 for each user, up to you. So completely different, much fairer billing approach. Okay, so this was the add-on, talking about Hystax Upscale. Sorry, but I needed to make use of the situation. Now let's take a look at Acura, live cloud migration and disaster recovery. Of course, it's good to know that it's partner-oriented solution. So it's a multi-tenant portal, what you get, multi-tenancy. So for all your end customers, you can manage them all out of a single portal. You can give your end customers access to the same portal so that you talk about the same screen if they call you for support or whatsoever. It's multi-tenancy because Hystax was purpose-built for partnership business. It can be white labeled even, so you can pretend it's your own solution. Hystax completely. It enables you disaster recovery and cloud migration. It's any-to-any, so any sources and any target platforms, and it will be integrated in this awesome cloud management platform called Upscale. And here you see why we call ourselves any-to-any, because we support more platforms on the source as well on the target side as any other vendor. Of course, we talk about a live cloud migration process. Don't confuse this solution with the manual way. You could always migrate to any platform in a manual way with some tools or set of scripts. And if you only want to migrate 5 or 12 servers, this is really still an option. But not if you talk about hundreds or thousands of servers, then you really need a fully automated solution. This is why AWS bought our competitor 1.5 years ago, Cloud Endure. There was always a white paper in the internet, 5 steps how to migrate to AWS. If it was so simple, just 5 steps, why did they spend 240 million to buy Cloud Endure? Because they understood that they need a fully automated solution, obviously, a process. So we talk about a fully automated process to migrate from one platform to another, not a tool, not some set of scripts. And the way this is done, it's called in the industry lift and shift. So what we're doing is important to understand, not just migrating a single file or an application, a database. No, it's always the full machine as such. No matter if it's a physical server, bare metal machine, or virtual machine. We can do both. But it's always lift and shift, the whole server with everything running on it or attached to it. So you can save your questions in a chat now if we can also migrate Kubernetes or Oracle databases or SAP HANA. Yes, yes, yes. The answer is always yes. If it's running on a machine, then we migrate it. Simple as that. The source side actually is very simple. On the source side, we can work always. It's always a given. As long as we can install a Windows or Linux machine which we need for our replication agent. So on the source, we have here just a sample of names. It's actually limited by the space where you see etc, etc. You can put there Alibaba, Google, IBM, Tencent Cloud, JD Cloud, whatsoever. We just need to install an agent, and that's it. That's the only requirement, and it takes just minutes to do so. Very important here, the takeaway I want you to have is just that we can support virtual machines as well as physical servers. More complex is the target platform, the target side. For disaster recovery, the failover side, or for migration, the cutover side. So here it's demanded that Hystax Acura is integrated into the platform, because it's a software. It's not a SaaS, a software as a service solution. Means this is very good for your customers, especially if they are very concerned about their data privacy, like governments, ministries, financial institutions, banks, because they don't like other people seeing the data. And this is exactly what is not the case, because we work in a 100% isolated environment. The customer is never ever connected to Hystax system. We don't run a system, a platform, or a third-party cloud which we use. This is not Upscale, which is, remember, Upscale, the cloud management platform with IT budget control. This is a SaaS-based solution, Upscale. But Hystax Acura is just a software. So no connection to Hystax. It's an isolated environment. Our software is running, it's, by the way, a set of Docker containers orchestrated by Kubernetes. And then we pack it in a single virtual machine, which is called the Hystax controller. This Hystax controller runs the main functionalities like the web UI, the portal, which we'll show you after these slides. And you access this machine, which is running in Syrex or your customer's AWS or Azure account. So our software is an instance running a virtual machine, running in an account in the target cloud. And you access this account, and then from there, deploy the agent on the source side. And then the agent automatically connects with the Hystax controller and starts its work. And to make this happen, Hystax needs to be integrated in AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba, and so forth. And we did this integration work. It means we need access to APIs, adjust our software, and we have done this for all these clouds, which you can see here, the big hyperscalers, including Alibaba, and numberless private clouds, VMware-based, OpenStack-based, KVM-based platforms. Here you can find Huawei, Red Hat, Canonical, and all standard Mitaka and whatsoever, Rookie, OpenStack clouds. So true any-to-any, big hyperscalers plus private VMware-based KVM and OpenStack clouds. And this is the true USP, because there are just 3 companies who can at all offer a fully automated migration solution to OpenStack and KVM. Even Veeam, which you all know in South Africa as well, #1 for backup company, Veeam, even they use Hystax sometimes if they have customers who need DR to KVM-based platforms, as they also can provide this. Let's start with the migration and then the DR, which anyhow is the same flow. It's good to know that, of course, all the replication happens in the background. So what we do, it's called incremental replication. We replicate the whole machine, as I said before, either virtual machine or physical server, doesn't matter, with everything running or attached to it. We migrate and replicate not just the data, but also the metadata, IP addresses, subnets, MAC addresses, also gets replicated. First, we take a full replica, and then incrementals. This is done by our agent, and as you can see, we also have external agents, also called agentless migration. So there are 2 types of agents. One is the internal agent, which, as the name implies, you have to deploy inside of each server. Or if the source is VMware, we can spare this, which is much easier and smarter, of course. Then we don't have to deploy an agent inside of each single server. but just close to the server on the hypervisor or infrastructure level. So in the case of VMware, on the VMware XI host level, for example. And this is another just small virtual machine, very thin provision, which detects all the other VMs around it and then starts automatically the replication by taking snapshots. This is what we do. We take snapshots, always consistent snapshots. On Windows, we get application consistent snapshots by using VSS, which is a Windows functionality. And on Linux, we found our own way to emulate VSS and get so-called crash consistent snapshots. The flow I will describe later again. Here just the information, everything happens in the background, so all the replication, no matter how long it takes, which does not depend on our software, it only depends on the bandwidth your customer can provide and the amount of data. If you have 1 terabyte or 5 petabyte, of course makes a difference. And if you have 10 megabits per second bandwidth or 10 gig, is also a difference. We just made a migration with 4 megabits of bandwidth, and it was 9 terabytes. So it took us 3 weeks to replicate data. But that's not our issue, as said, pure mathematics, bandwidth, and amount of data. And it doesn't matter if the customer has time, because it happens in the background. There's no impact on the production, because we do have quality of service. We do throttling. We don't need the full bandwidth, of course. And we do WAN optimization, deduplication, compression, and so forth. So the replication happens in the background, no downtime, no interruption for the customer. We allow unlimited amount of test migrations. So you can test as long as you want, because at the end of the day, your customer doesn't really care if Syrex or you guys are using Hystax or double take or whatsoever. They just want the confidence that all their workloads run in the same stable and flawless way like they did on the last platform when they do a migration. Or that if they have a disaster, that really the failover happens and the machines take over. This is the confidence in it. And for this, you can test as long until the confidence is there. If there's any issues, we just start all over again, and we only do the cut over if it's 100% sure that there will be 100% performance. And as I said, we support also bare metal and have a very nice level of orchestration. Now, simplified the migration stages. Very simple, but this is a very important slide, because this is where our partners, Syrex and Co., can add value and make money. Because there are 2 ways. Of course, you can put some margin on top of our, or Syrex, its wholesale prices, and resell the license with some percentage. Nice. But the main cost block in any migration project is the professional services, which counts for, let's say, 75% of the cost. And the license fees are just 25%. So this is a great chance to gain twice: first by reselling a license, and second by offering your professional services. And these are important, because our software is cool, it's great, it's awesome, but it's not magic. It's not doing magic. Also, we cannot do miracles. So first, of course, someone has to take a look at the workloads. What servers should be migrated? What can be migrated? What are the operation systems, kernel versions, all these pre-assessment things, which our software does till a certain extent, but not 100%. Then the networking recreation, because as I said earlier, we do migrate and replicate not just the data, also the metadata. That's nice, yeah, but there are still things even we cannot replicate, like VPNs, firewalls, stuff like this. This needs to be recreated first on the new target side, and then and create the migration plan, obviously, to test migrations, and then our software can do its magic and kick in. So this is still a lot of work for our partners, which is actually the name of the game. Here you can see the flow to AWS. and here to KVM. And surprise, surprise, it's the same, except for those who have a very good eye. Here there's an AMI. This is typical AWS issue where you have to create an AMI first. But apart from this, for Azure, for any other OpenStack, Alibaba, Google, it's the same procedure. So you have two sides, the customer, the source side, and it's a new platform where you want to migrate or do failover in case of a disaster recovery use case. No Hystax in between, as I mentioned, isolated environment. So what you're going to do, our software is already deployed in the target cloud, in an AWS or Azure or Google or Alibaba account of you or your customer. Then you enter the portal, the web UI. So here you see some containers. Of course, there are more. These are the main things. Packed in a virtual machine, the Hystax controller running in an instance on a target side. You open the UI. It's 100% covered by RESTful API, so you can also integrate it in your own CMPs. But most use the UI because it's a very nice one. And then you download the agent, which takes 2 minutes. The agent has everything scripted, all running on it. You don't have to do anything, no manual work. Just download the file, which Anatoly will show you in a demo, and deploy it. Then, here for simplicity, it says one machine. It could be 5,000 machines, doesn't matter. There, our agent on a source environment is deployed. It can be an internal agent or external agent. For the flow, actually, it doesn't matter. This agent makes snapshots, calculates deltas, and then sends these data via HTTPS, encrypted. You can also use IPsec tunnels, VPNs. It's all possible, but we don't need it by default. It works via HTTPS. We send the data. The agent just needs to have a connection with the controller. It does not even have to be an internet connection. It can be in the same data center as long as there's a connection. And then the receiver receives those data and stores them in volumes. Also, an important takeaway, we don't use object storage, which is very good if we talk about not the migration, but the disaster recovery use case. Because for disaster recovery, there are two things which are important. RPO and RTO, recovery point objective and recovery time objective. And most solutions, they use object storage to store the data, which means that in case of a failover, of a disaster and a failover, they have to go first to the object storage and retrieve all the data and then spin the machine up, the virtual machines in a failover side. We don't have to do this because the data is already in the volumes, no object storage in between, so we can directly spin up the machines, the VMs, from those volumes, which gives us a very cool RTO recovery time objective of just minutes, just the booting time of the machines. RPO, by the way, is 5 minutes on Windows and 3 minutes on Linux, which is also quite good, just minutes. Most RFPs, they demand 15 minutes, so 5 and 3 is the third or fifth of this already, but you can even bring it down to seconds, which we might show in the demo as well. So agents deployed on the source side, connection to our controller, running in the target side, storing data in volumes, and then booting machines directly from those volumes in an orchestrated way, of course. What does it mean? Orchestration means that you, of course, want to have a certain order how to boot the machines. You don't really want to start the Apache server for Active Directory, for example, because there are dependencies among the machines, as we all know, and this can create a nice mess. So this is what we do in the disaster recovery or the migration plan. We put in order which machines do you want to start first. So let's say, for example, you would first start the machine running Windows Active Directory. Then as a second machine, Oracle databases. And then the machine where the databases are running on. And then as the next step, move the clients to those databases. So this is orchestrated launch. And of course, we support this. And the V2V, the virtual to virtual or physical to virtual transformation is also fully integrated and automized in the migration process itself. Here's where the magic happens. Here's where you can change flavors, CPU, because to CPU on VMware EXI is not the same like on OpenStack, for example. So this is already tested and defined in the migration plan. And then on the fly, when we do the V2V, we can change flavor, we can change disk size and stuff like this. That's the flow. And it's the same flow for disaster recovery. As said, it's the same software. It's also about deploying agents, taking snapshots, sending data to the target platform. It's the same. This is why I don't repeat the chart. Let me just point out some nice bullet points. The advantage of having such a solution is that you avoid vendor lock-in, because if you have VMware on production side and VMware on the failover side, it means you have to pay all the licenses twice. That's number one, a very expensive thing. And second, you are pretty well locked in. And in the times of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud approaches, no one wants to be locked in to no vendor at all. So without solution, you can easily switch between clouds because it's cross-cloud disaster recovery. Full DR automation. So this means not just fully automated failover, of course. It also means fully automated failback, because this is what the real disaster recovery solution should be about. Otherwise, it's maybe backup only. So in our case, we have an automated failover, but also if after whatever disaster happened, the production site is up and running again after 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatsoever, you want to fail back from Azure to the production site or to the other cloud, feel free. And this so-called failback obviously should also be automated. This is full DR automation, failover and failback. Best-in-class RPO and RTO, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, or even seconds. And ready to build DR solutions to end customers. Our software is not only working for the public clouds, also for private clouds, even for on-prem installations, where you have customers who cannot use clouds at all. They would like, but because of privacy issues or whatsoever, compliance issues, they cannot go cloud. Then you can offer, with the right hardware and our software, a fully functional disaster recovery as a service solution on-prem, where we only use customer infrastructure, like another data center for the failover or another availability zone in the same location. So we have the full bunch of products: public clouds, private clouds, on-prem. Actually, this is what I normally say here: disaster recovery as a service, ready to build for any public cloud, for any private cloud, even on-prem, and also as a derivative, cloud backup. If you can do disaster recovery, which is much more complex, you should also be able to offer backup. And this is the case, obviously, with Hystax as well. So if you bump into a customer who says, hey, really great, all this automated failover and failback, I love it, but I don't need it. I just want to have my data stored in a very resilient way for the next 20, 50, or 100 years with some nice retention policies, maybe. Yes, of course, we can do this as well. So here, quickly, some summary. So you have a single control plane for all your customer because it's multi-tenancy, it's purpose-built for partner business, very sophisticated role-based, which Anatoly will show you how granular you can give. First, define different roles, and then within the role, different access rules. All logs, reports in one place, 100% covered by REST APIs, RPO, RTO, great times, report, event notification. Well, to be honest, I'm not even proud of this, because this is a no-brainer for anyone who calls himself a PR solution. Let's have a nice look of some names. Syrex is here. Good, of course it's there. So this is just a selection. So we want to show that we work and operate. We are agnostic, not just cloud agnostic, not just as Ralph also mentioned, the agnostic part. It's not just cloud agnostic. It's not just application agnostic or storage agnostic. It's also vertical or industry agnostic, because it's not just for finance businesses. Anyone who has servers, even a hospital or a real estate company, needs disaster recovery solution and wants to migrate to a cloud sooner or later. And so here's some verticals. We have a strong presence in telcos. Why? Because all these telcos, Deutsche Telekom, Saudi Telecom, Orange, they have their own clouds, which they offer their customers. And normally it's always VMware-based and OpenStack. And since we're the only one who supports OpenStack in a fully automated way, we are in all cases. Integrators love us because when I used to talk to Atos or Rackspace in the beginning, as a sales guy, you need to ask questions. And one question was, of course, which vendor do you use now or did you use in the past? And they all say, well, it depends. It depends on the project. What is the source? What is the target? And that's the point. Because some they don't support on the source physical servers. Some they don't support private clouds. But in our case, we are any to any. So it's a real one-size-fits-all solution. You don't have to look what is the target platform, what is the source platform, because Hystax always works. This is why they love us, of course, because it's just less choices. Cloud service providers who offer their own cloud, they even sponsor our solution because they have one issue, that they have good salespeople who sell the customer, in addition to AWS, Azure, a nice little OpenStack cloud from City Networks, for example, because don't put all your eggs in one basket and all these things. But then they sold it successfully, nothing happens. Why? Because until the customer does not start finally moving some workloads into his new cloud, no one benefits. And sometimes they have to wait 1 year until customers start doing this because they simply don't know how to do it. And this is why they say, these CSPs, cloud service providers, we are obviously not in the cloud migration business. We don't want to make money with the migration itself. We just want to have our customers please as soon as possible in our cloud so that they can use our services. This is the intention, and therefore they just do the migration using Hystax and they don't charge the customer, they sponsor this. Red Hat, Canonical, cloud vendors, as we are OpenStack. This is, for example, big partner Red Hat, they use us for upgrades. And
if I can jump in, my friend, if I leave you here, you're going to be here the rest of the day. And I love you lots, but we do need to move across to the technical. So
that's right, my friend.
Okay, got you.
So end customers, we also have some of them, as said, but usually we prefer to give all the leads to our partners, and Ralph is the man who can confirm this. Every lead inbound I get from South Africa region, within seconds it lands on his desk, right? Case studies are available on our webpage as well. So yeah, this was the high-level presentation, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And now a little bit more technical approach on this, how we do it, by my dear friend and colleague Anatoly, who is our chief engineer, and gives you a demo of this portal. Bye-bye.
Yeah, hey everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Anatoly, and so I'd like to introduce Acura UI to you. Well, one moment, I'll share my screen. Yes, I hope you see my screen. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Acura UI. Here you can see that we have some levels in our Acura solution. The first, or the top level, is a partner level. If you have partner account, you can add, manage, and also remove customers. In our customer pages, we store all our devices that we want to migrate. So let's go to our first customer page called Snowdrop. So let's click on it. Here you can see that we have full stack of our work with Acura. It's at the top of my screen. Here you can see that we have some steps of working with Acura. The first step is install agents, then replicate machines, configure replication settings, create migration plan, run test migration, and cutover. So also you can see here that we have some other panels like cloud sites. Here you will see all instances that we will run using Acura in your target cloud. Also migration plans. Here you will see all settings for running your cloud sites in cloud. So I'll tell you about it a little bit later. And also machine groups. So each just group in Acura, and here you will see all devices that you want to migrate from source to target. As I said before, it's just grouping in Acura. You can group your machines as you wish by operation system or maybe some other business logic, so you can do it without any problems. as you wish. So let's start from the first tab called Install Agents. For doing it, we just need to click on this big blue button at the left side of my screen. So let's click on it, Download Agents. Because we have partner account and we have an access to all customers, here we can choose to what customer we want to add this device. And in this partner, we have only one customer. So let's click on it and then click Next. Here you can see that we have two types of agents in our Acura solution. The first type of agent is an external agent. If your source environment is VMware, you can use this type. It works in Hyper-V level. So you just need to download the image of our agent, deploy it to your ESXi or the center, and then all devices near this agent will be detected by Acura and also will be ready for migration. But if your source environment is not VMware, but for example, OpenStack, AWS, Azure, or even bare metal, you can use internal agents, Windows for Windows and Linux for Linux. So let's take, for example, Windows and then click Next. As you remember, in our customer page, we had two types of groups, default and additional VMs. So in this tab, you can choose what group you want to add this new device. So let it be default and then click Next. In the latest tab of installation, you can see only one button, Download Agent. And if you click on it, a simple MSI file will be downloaded to your machine. You will just need to deploy to your VM that you want to migrate and make a simple installation. After this, a simple Windows servers will be running in your machine, and this machine will be detected by Acura and also will be ready for migration. So if we go to our customer page, Snowdrop, as you remember, we selected default group. It means that the new machine will appear here with its name as you have this name in your source machine. So when we finished with the installation agent, we can start our first migration. For doing it, we just need to click on this 3-point button against our machine and then click on Start Replication. I'll tell you about our migration process. So the first replication is full or initial replication. It means that we pass all data from source to target. Of course, we use a lot of optimizations like the duplication, and we don't send 0 blocks of data. We use HTTPS, so all your data is encrypted and you have absolute safety here. I'd like to add that the next replication, the next replication will be incremental. It means that we take only changes of deltas and pass it from source to target. When we start our first replication, in common case, we create cloud volume in your cloud side, and then we write data inside this cloud volume. And in the end of replication, we create cloud snapshot. It means that we save current state of your server in target cloud side. Okay, when we finish with our first application, we can create our first migration plan. For doing it, we just need to choose our machine, then click on bulk action, and then generate migration plan. It means that in this panel, the new migration plan will appear. We just need to go and edit it. For doing it, we just need to click on Edit. Here you can see that we have two types of panel, Basic and Expert. So let's start from the first one, from Basic panel. Here we have some required fields, for example, flavor name, subnet ID, and CIDR. So let's talk about all these fields. The first one is flavor name. You know that in your target cloud, you have flavor list. It means what CPU, what RAM, what storage you want to use for new instance in your target cloud. So you just need to go to the cloud, check, choose what flavor you want to use, and paste this information here. Also, we have to know in what subnet you want to run your instance in target cloud. And also we need to fill this information in this field, subnet ID, and also CIDR. If you want to use static IP address, you can paste this information here, and then this instance will apply this IP address and will run with this IP. Of course, if this IP is free, and we can use it if this IP is from this subnet. As I said before, we have also expert panel here. It's just the same plan, but in JSON style. So we have very good help documentation where you can take all information about what settings we can use while running instances in the target cloud. For example, boot decondition, delay seconds, boot delay if you need to wait some time while booting your machine in target cloud. Or maybe if you want to migrate on not only one machine for one time, but 2, 3, 5, you can use ordering. If you need to migrate 3 machines, you can order in what order you want to run this machine in target cloud. So when we're finished with our editing migration plan, we can save it. And after this, we just need to choose and then click Run Migration. So here you will see another migration plans, then click Next. Just paste information about how you want to call this outside, and then click on Run Migration. It means that in 3 minutes for Linux and 5 minutes for Windows, the new instance in your target cloud will be running. You can go check it, check that everything is okay, and then go to Acura again. Okay. Usually, when we make migration, we do it in the next steps. So we make full replication, test migration plan, create migration plan, test it. After this, we can make incremental check. So to take the latest changes, and then we can run migration again, run cloud site again, and go if everything is okay, we can run cutover. It means that as you can read it from this text, click the touch button on the cloud site page, let migration machine act independently from Acura. So it's cutover. Okay, we have very good additional things in our Acura solution. For example, reports. Here you can take all information about cutovers, about migration reports. So you can generate reports and take all information about migration, about processes in your Acura solution, how many migration files were created, and so on. So also events. So here you can take all information about Acura processes, about successfuls, warnings, errors. For example, if you don't have enough space to run your cloud site in target cloud, Acura will have an event about it. You can read, check, go to your cloud, and fix this issue in your target cloud. Also, we have settings. As I said before, we have different types of roles in our Acura solution. For example, partner role, and here you can choose what partner can do or what partner cannot do. Also, you can add new roles and maybe restrict some issue for your customers. After you can, for example, deny your customer to add migration plans, maybe edit migration plans, and so on. Just save it, and after this, go to your users, add the user, and here you can choose what's login and password your customer will have, and this customer will use this user with these settings of role. Also, we have very good notifications. So you can add name of your customer, email, and choose type of what types of events you want to send to your customer. For example, about all events with warnings, with errors, and so on. Just paste this information here, save, and after this, your customer will receive emails with information about accurate events and so on. And also, we have very good help documentation where you can find a lot of answers to all your questions. And also, we're always ready to help you. So, Adam? Yes, I think I finished with the presentation of our migration on our portal. And if you have any questions, we're ready to answer.
Okay.
I must be honest, I start to get a little bit lost with all the technology. I'm more like Edwin. I like to understand the big pictures and all the frilly things. So I appreciate you taking the time. And for those that have joined us that are technical, I'm sure it made a lot of sense to you. I think some of the questions that were posted were now answered, and Anatoly did jump in and answer a lot of the questions. I think just to elaborate 1 or 2 points, just to clarify. So Syrex as a partner in South Africa for its customers has already built an Acura node in Azure. We have another one being deployed in AWS, which means for our customers that have services with us and connectivity and all the rest of it, we can do a fully managed transaction for you. So you don't need to build your own Acura. For those parties that are on the line that are looking to be partners themselves, we can assist with that, or CSA will assist you with the licensing. Hystax has a really great program that they can do the tier 2 training, the deployment, the assistance, the first setup for you as a customer. So if you don't come through the Syrex channel, you go through CSA. They will guide you with Hystax directly in the necessary technical training, deploying your own environments. And I think one of the questions, Henk asked the question, but I think it's important to note you guys will choose your target. So if you have a private data center sitting in Terrico, or you want to put your load in AWS in Western Cape, or you want to utilize Azure North and Western Cape, and you want to leverage between the two clouds or on-prem to cloud, I think that was the key component. All you need to do is you must have an Acura instance in each environment. Now, by having that Acura instance there, it basically acts as a guide that points from the source into the target. And once that's deployed, you can then move any workload that you want. The Hystax offering obviously includes a lot of disaster recovery, but please remember that also ticks a lot of the boxes for your backups. So you're bringing a lot of product into the play here and a lot of services that you now have through one dashboard, one orchestration methodology. We just provide this as a fully managed service. So we will provide the professional services, the advice, the setup, the configuration. You will leverage off our Acura environment, which means you don't have to deploy one yourself. So we will do that. It's multi-tenanted, and it is isolated. So the data in motion, the data at rest is never accessible, and we provide the additional checkpoint security and all the other elements. But if you want to do this yourself, I just wanted to clarify, this is available to everybody. So you can play the scenario out any way you want, and we're obviously there to advise you. Otherwise, you can reach out to CSA or the teams, and we'll see how we can look at your specific solution. I think, Anatoly, maybe answer that question. I think we have a good question there from Anton. Let's belabor the point a little bit because we're having a little chat now, and just use this forum. And please, guys, if you have any questions, just drop them in now. We have tried to answer most of them as they've come up. But Anatoly, just from a backup perspective, if you've moved you've created the target environment, you're still running live on your environment locally, you have a failure, but you actually want to get some data back from what's been put into the cloud. How does that really work with the backups?
Yeah, sure. So the question is, can you do file level recovery from the backups? So we replicate the whole machine, or we don't work on file level. We replicate the whole machine, and so we take the machine and the whole machine and pass data from source to target, just without any file levels, because we replicate using block levels, and they make a replication of whole volumes and pass it to target cloud. And after this, we collect this machine from these volumes and running in target cloud.
Okay, so I think in non-technical speak, yes, we can do file level recovery outside the instances that we're hosting. And I think maybe just to belabor your point, Edwin, I think we, as you said, we're moving the entire instance. So the important thing is we can spin that instance up. It will be identical to what it was when it was running previously before it failed on site or you were running a test. So we are able to create a very seamless, not only migration, but immediate spin up for you in another environment. One of the other things that are quite important is that there's what we call a playbook. And I find this to be one of the most interesting parts. So not only do you only pay for the storage in the target environment, which is why we go to hyperscale, right? So we don't have to pay for the full VM. So you pay for the Hystax license and you pay for the storage in that environment. But if you're not actively using that environment, those are the only two things you need to pay for. If you get into the moment of a disaster and you have to do a recovery or it's an automated recovery, you then only start paying for the necessary CPU and memory. Now remember, in hyperscale is all about workloads per hour. So it will calculate the total use, which is why Edwin was talking so much about OptiScale, because if you suddenly leave a server on or you add resources or you're playing or you have a test environment, all of these things are running costs that you don't see actively until you get the bill at the end of the month. But the key here is that you have a very quick migration there. You fail over there. You only pay for what you use when you use it. If you fail back to your primary environment, which might still be on premise, when the machine is either fixed or whatever's gone wrong can be recovered, you then don't pay for those resources anymore and you go back to just paying for the storage and the license. And the very key component here is that the playbook that we provide as part of the professional service that Hystax has embedded allows us to orchestrate a lot of the additional components, the networking, the failover, the host name resolution. There's a whole lot of commands that you can run that assist in the actual orchestration failover. So you don't just failover into Azure behind a different public IP and then suddenly your environment is not accessible. So, Hystax provides that additional layer of commands that we can drive into the system so that it can be wired back into a state where it's accessible for either your internal users or the people that might be accessing that externally or via the internet. So that's another very important methodology to consider, and that we will provide as a professional service to those partners or clients that are looking for us to assist in a very unique plan and migration plan and how you would fail over and recover.
Let me additionally add something to the file recovery, because which Anton was asking, because Anatoly answered it correctly on the basis of our current offering with we replicate the whole machine and stuff like this. But as sales director, I have the roadmap a little bit more in front of my virtual eyes. And so the cloud backup, we just did it because we can do it. It's nothing special, but it was not seen as a real specific product. We had DR and migration, and we can also do backup. But now we saw that a lot of companies ask us and say, hey, if I already do the disaster recovery with you, why should I go for the backup to someone else? So your backup is now, let's say, not too sophisticated. Please extend it to a real backup solution, 100% compatible with Veritas and Veeam and stuff like this. So we added a little bit more effort in it. And so from beginning of next year on, we have the specific tool, which is called file recovery, because this is something special from backup that you recover not the whole machine, but just a single specific file recovery. It will be there, Anton, from beginning of next year.
Okay, so I think just based on the questions we've had and answered that we've now posted and have been taken care of, I think we can most probably close off the session. I just want to say thank you very much to everyone, Edwin and Co. Let's just say thank you for your time and for being here. It's great to have you, Anatoly, obviously to do that presentation. And then if there are any questions or anything further you want to ask, please feel free. We will be sending out an email after this that will have the full recording, as well as access to the professional services or some guidance if that's what you're looking for. So thank you very much, everybody, and we're going to close this session off. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thank you.
It was an honor. Thank you very much.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
guys. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.